I've talked 995, Alan and company bringing you the show tonight. Man, those are just my folks when it comes to gift giving. It's nice to have a jewelry store, on speed dial or quickly to get to when you want to love on somebody. Or, there are a couple occasions in life when you pop the question or you're going to upgrade a diamond or do something big. Then there's just through the seasons, you want to give gifts for people and do nice things. They've got them for you all over, Allen and Company. Most of everything in their store is one of a kind, custom design. Alan makes pieces and he will bring in individual pieces from all over the world with his fellow jewelers. So you don't get this cookie cutter corporate mass produced stuff that somebody else may have. You don't want her to have a ring somebody else has. Let it be hers. Let that pendant or that necklace or that setup be exactly what she wants. And there's so much that goes into it. And look, they've got the best. It's a family business. The Thompsons are there, and they're not going to rush you. They're not going to push you. They're not hitting you with all that sales jive when you walk in, where they're trying to, you know how they do, guys. They try to confuse you and hide the prices and educate you on the five C's. And don't just go to Allen and Company and get it right. Get financing for cleanings and repairs and upgrades and missing stones and broken chains and all those things. Just day to day stuff. They're there for you as well. And the cool thing is they never have to send your stuff off to get it repaired. They do it right there. Alan will do the work and get it right back to you. These are great folks. Over in Vestavia, it's a very small shop by design. It's very boutique. They're not there to be one of those big chain mall stores, but day to day, season after season, different parts of your life, make them your go-to. I think once you shop there, you'll go there from now on. It's Allen and Company in Vestavia. All right, so a heavy news afternoon. We got a lot coming at us. We got a lot of political movement going on in different places. And then, of course, we've got these, what we used to call when I was in the news business, we called them spot news events. That's stuff you didn't plan for that suddenly happens, and usually it involves trauma and violence. We're going to start with the biggest one so far today, the one that was the most alarming, and that is someone drove a truck into a Jewish center in West Bloomfield, Michigan, very near Detroit, very near Dearborn, Michigan, Dearbornistan. We don't know where the person was from. The media will go on and on about. We don't know motive. We know the attempt was to kill Jewish people, and they missed because they had a professional security team on site. One of the security team members got hit by the vehicle when it rammed into the building. It came to a stop. There was a fire that eventually broke out. We don't know why yet, but we're getting reports that the vehicle may have been laden with explosives. There was some kind of gunfire. Might have been an exchange. Might have just been the security team taking this person out. The good news is they killed the assailant immediately responding and stopped what could have been a catastrophe for the Jewish community in that area. There is a massive police response from agencies all over that region. This happened about 3 hours ago. The feds are on the scene. The FBI is on the scene. Of course, this has all the hallmarks in this time of war with the situation in Iran. This has all the hallmarks of a terror attack. And we're still waiting on any kind of formal news conference where they might be able to piece in some things. One of the local reporters on scene, when I was watching the earlier news conference, there was just sort of a quick parking lot update by the sheriff there who couldn't tell much at the moment. He did say it was a truck. They asked about where were the plates on the truck? Where's the truck from? Because immediately you wonder if this was a local jihadi with this huge Muslim community next door. But I'll say it again. I'll caution you. We don't even know who this was, and there's so much anti-Semitism in the country. This could have been a lot of people that have been brewing and online too much that are deciding to lash out against the Jewish community right now. So we'll wait and see what we can find out. Hopefully, again, we've still got 3 hours to go. There'll be some sort of more formal news conference to get us updated. But then we had another event almost simultaneously. This one happened a little bit earlier at Old Dominion University. For short, we'll call them ODU. And there was immediately some people were shot on campus at a particular building. That person was also quickly engaged with the authorities. And I believe was put down. And I still don't even have a full list of how many people were injured and hurt and killed or whatever. But the internet, being the internet, and some sources in that area are identifying the shooter as a former student who also may have served in the National Guard. And I'm not going to give his name out until we get further confirmation, but this guy apparently was arrested for giving material support to ISIS. His first name is Muhammad, they claim, and was giving material support to ISIS back in, I believe it was 2016. He was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison, and the Biden administration let him out. And here we are in a wartime situation looking for terror cells that were also let into this country by that same administration, chasing ghosts all over the place, false alarms being put out like they were yesterday with ABC falsely reporting a drone threat on the West Coast. The White House and the feds had to straighten that out today. That was not a threat. There was no threat memo after the war started. That was something back in February where they put out these normal notices. So let's sit back and watch the media spin all this, because there's a clear pattern here. It's a clear pattern here of attacks and reaction to the war in Iran, and it was completely predictable. Where and to what extent, we don't know. But will it be happening? Yes. And I'm not trying to be one of those "I told you so" guys, but we've talked about that since 12 days ago, that these things inevitably are going to happen. The bad guys, when you're a terrorist, and that's what all this is, you don't have to win any wars. You only have to be right a couple of times. You got to evade detection long enough to commit an atrocity and try to get away with it or blow yourself up. These people are seeking martyrdom. It is almost like a lashing out. They're not going to win any wars this way, but they're going to commit acts of violence. And so there'll still be missiles firing off randomly in that region of the war zone. There will still be drones and perhaps mines. And boy, do I have some information on the mine thing. I was about to nerd out on y'all hard today before all this breaking news happened. I found some articles on the details of the kind of ships we use, the technology you use, and some more bad information on the left about our minesweepers. These people are so dumb when it comes to military tactics. And so it's just one of those alarming times where history's going down. And I'll tell you, there's going to be more violence. It's too easy. It's low tech. It's cheap. They grab a gun and go do something because they feel like they're called to do it. This is how you get to heaven. You martyr yourself. There's no downside to them. And we're completely vulnerable in this country. And I think it's because we're a free people, and free people are always going to be more vulnerable. The places where they've able to pull this off, and again, it's amazing that at Old Dominion today, and with a potential bomb-laden truck crashing into a big building, that we didn't have mass casualties. We didn't. The security team worked. The cops were quick at ODU. Even the shooter in Austin was engaged quickly by the authorities there, and the death count was kept down. And of course, we saw the New York situation where the bombs didn't go off and the cops were just brave. Some of the bravest stuff I've seen police do in a long time. Those guys are national heroes. So this is how we fight back. We guard ourselves. You layer security. I'm going to repeat it again, and I may even say it every hour today. If you are a pastor, or you're in charge of a church facility, or you're a rabbi, or you're an imam, and you have a gathering in these times, you got to fortify your facilities against this kind of stuff. You've got to think about the worst case scenario and prepare for it. We have reporting this afternoon that this particular synagogue actually trained on this very similar scenario 6 weeks ago. Now, I think they did have some barriers, those anti-car barriers that are now placed around certain buildings to try to stop a truck attack or something like this. And we don't know anything about the size of the truck. We think it was a pickup truck, but we still don't know yet. You can see from the aerial, you can sort of see the path where he kind of went through, and he was able to get through there anyway and get pretty deep inside the building, we presume. But you've got to do physical barriers. You got to think through exit strategies. You need a layered defense system. Having a couple off-duty deputies, as good as that is for deterrence, probably for random stuff. In other words, a bad guy's walking in the front door of your church on Sunday and he sees an armed deputy. Now, that may be a little bit of a deterrent. You got some security cameras. All they're going to do is document. They're not going to stop anything, the cameras. So you got to really think about it, and you got to be guarding all four corners of your building, and you've got to know what the fallback positions are and have professionally trained staff and keep your, and honestly communicate that to the people in your building. Is they need to know that their security and how it works. There's a risk in that because you're giving up your security profile, and some of it does need to be secret, but you got to tell your congregation or your flock how to move and how to react. We live in those times. And here's the thing, Israel has been doing this for decades. They have to. They live in a bad neighborhood. So they know where the bunkers are. They all know where their gas masks are. They know where personal weapons are, and they drill on it and train on it their whole lives. And so they can be going about their day, breezing through anywhere. And when the siren's going off, they know exactly what to do. It saves lives. And sadly, we live in that world now. We have invited the barbarians inside the gates. They're here. We've done it through a lot of foolishness that some in our government are trying to stop in terms of our immigration policy and the ability to control the direction of this country by people that are from here and deserve to be here and deserve to vote here and make our decisions. We can't even get that done. We can't even, in this environment, we can't get the United States Senate to fund Homeland Security, and we can't get them to pass the basic things we want to protect this country right now. So we're wide open. The gate has been open for 20 years. We just closed it. They're inside. They're everywhere. They live in our communities, and they all read the same book, and they have the same sheet of music, and we're going to see more attacks like this. So updates on it when we get it. I'm pissed off, but I'm not surprised whatsoever. What we don't know, just to keep you, I know I'll be a little bit repetitive today when we get in this space of an ongoing story. We don't know that the two shooting suspects are connected. Oh, now we have Fox News also reporting on this ODU shooter, that he was arrested in 2017 on these ISIS charges. And now that that's been validated by them, his name is Mohammed Jolah. From, I think, Sierra Leone. He's from the continent of Africa. Naturalized citizen. You know, it's just like Ilhan Omar. You get a chance to become an American and move here and participate in the greatest nation that ever existed, the most prosperous and free place in the world, still to this day. It is. It's not even close. You're ignorant if you don't understand that. Or you're just a whiny bitch. Because even the poor people that think they're downtrodden in this country have it better than 90% of the rest of the world. And that's why people will get on a leaky 55-gallon drum and try to float out of Cuba and make their way to the Florida Keys somehow and get to freedom and get bit by jellyfish and attacked by sharks, and you're lucky if it doesn't sink just to get here. And you got people that hate being here, and then some people get invited in and invited to participate, and they just refuse to go along. They'll always be our enemy. In their heart, they are not Americans first. That's a problem. It's a problem when it's on the scale that it's at. Apparently, let's see, Kash Patel, this just in about a minute ago, announced the feds, FBI is now in on the Old Dominion shooting case. Suspect is identified as Mohammed Jalloh. I don't know how he pronounces his name, who said authorities were previously convicted for supporting ISIS. All right, let me get my head around this. Naturalized citizen means you start as a non-citizen and you attain citizenship. No problem with that. That's our process. But there is a mechanism, and we need to know this, in our government where that naturalization is conditional and it can be taken away if you become an enemy to this country. That's in the law. This guy was convicted by the feds, former ODU student, for going overseas and connecting and trying to provide support to a terror organization like ISIS. And he's still here. Not only is he still here, I can see he was arrested, he was found out, he was busted, he was incarcerated, given 11 years and let out early by the Biden administration. How are you not deported at that point? You lose your naturalization, your ass is on a plane, and you're chopping wood in Sierra Leone that afternoon. You're not here with us. These idiots let him out on the streets. We've been battling this, particularly since 2020. It's a combination of things. The global forces that want to rip our country apart and put as many violent, angry people in our streets as they can. And one of the avenues to do that is soft on crime measures. It's unchecked, unvetted immigration and soft on crime measures in this country have created a toxic, very dangerous situation for this country right now. And so here's another one. And we'll have details on that later. All that's being confirmed at this hour. Again, I started down this road and I'll go back to it real quick. We don't know that the two were connected. We don't know that they're all talking on some chat page and decided this is the hour. Let's go now but we did have 3 events simultaneously. One was in Norway, but it was strange to me when you see them all 3 happen at the same time. I'm going to repeat something that I told my boys when I was raising them when they'd get in trouble, and I've said over and over on this show in a number of circumstances over the years. And then we'll go to some phone calls and I'll keep the breaking news coverage. But I mean, I don't know, internalize this and use it if you want to. It just works in life. When something happens one time, you can call it an incident. And that's what the media will do. They'll try to ignore this, memory hole it, disconnect it, and pretend like it's not. There's no pattern here. Pattern recognition will save your life. Some people call it stereotyping. Some people call it other things. But it's called pattern recognition. And it's how animals in nature survive. They know how to spot a threat, how to identify a threat, how to either fight and kill that threat or run from it. Pattern recognition. So here are the patterns. One time is an incident. If it happens a second time and it's a very similar event, you could write that off as a coincidence. Maybe not. By the time you get to 3 of them, you've got a pattern now. And I can demonstrate a pattern of 1,000 incidents like this, 1,000. Here in our country, much less the rest of the world. We've got to recognize patterns and deal with our problems. And I just wish we had leadership that had the balls to do it. Meantime, you got to the government cannot make you secure. That's another false sense that people have, that somehow because you're a citizen and you're safely here at home, you've got a right to some kind of security. You might think you do, but they don't even have the capability to do that. It's going to be up to you to protect you and your family and your mass gatherings of any type, schools, churches, other buildings, workplace. You better know what's going to go down. You better sit with your team and imagine the worst, and you better be ready for it. How do I know this? Because that's what that Jewish center did, and they stopped it. They saved their own people. Granted, they're in a bad neighborhood near Dearborn, and they know their targets. All Jewish gatherings all over the world are targets right now. So they were smart, and they took heed. And that security team is to be commended. We'd be talking about a bomb going off, and who knows how many people dead, including children that were in that facility. All right, y'all. Quick break. Back in a minute. 545-9950 Leland Live. All right, y'all, 326 Leland Live, Talk 905 Ox Foundation Solutions. Next up here on the show, oxstrong.com. That's how you get them over to your house. Every now and then you're going to have a situation where you're just not sure. Some things are obvious. If you see a crack or know you've got water coming in, you need to get on that because it is going to get worse. I've never seen a basement or foundation issue heal itself. It just doesn't work like that. That flies in the laws of physics. You got to have a real professional company come over and check for other causes. Once you get water in, you've got other stuff that can go on, mold buildup, other issues with that. Let them come fix it at Ox. These guys do all of it. They'll fix a shift, a little small shift or a crack or water intrusion. They'll level your whole house if it's starting to slip, all the way down to the bedrock if they can reach it with those helical piers. And then, of course, once you get all dried out and leveled out and everything sealed up, you need to do encapsulation to keep that moisture down. They do that too. If you do have mold, they remove that too. They do all of it. This is absolutely a professional company, the best in the business. Y'all get them over to your place and get a good inspection. Let's get on that before the humidity gets back, before we get into sure enough summertime. Oxstrong.com, oxstrong.com. New York Post with a little more write-up on this Old Dominion shooting. Let me just give you what they're saying. It's very much what we've been seeing this afternoon. Apparently, this shooter went into a building, asked if it was an ROTC class, and then opened fire. This guy's Mohammed Baylor Jallo. He's 36 years old. Stormed into a classroom, asked if it was an ROTC class again, opened fire on the instructor. Apparently, one of the ROTC students, in heroic fashion, there's so much heroism in the last three stories with this stuff here in the country. Today, twice, New York this weekend. This heroic ROTC student, according to the Post, jumped into action before more damage was done. He stabbed this guy to death while he was gunning down the class. Good Lord, that's amazing. The former instructor was apparently a veteran, retired veteran, and there's more details coming out on him later too. What tragedy in the midst of the chaos in this country. And then I looked over here and there's a Virginia attorney over there immediately started blaming guns. This is what they do. Could it be ISIS support? I don't know. Could it be his faith system and his the dark heart this guy had toward his fellow man? Maybe. Because they keep trying to tell you white supremacy is a big threat, or just white people in general. We got more guns than anybody else, and we didn't do this today. We didn't do any of this stuff. None of it. Back in a minute. All right, let's do some things. EcoView Windows and Doors bringing you the show tonight. EcoViewWindows.com. Y'all let them come take a look. I'm telling you, saving 35% on those power bills. I was just thinking about my bill. I got my estimate in. It's a couple $100. That's $70. I mean, on a low month, I wasn't home very much during that period, and the weather got better. But I've had some of y'all have bills in the $400 or $500 a month. You think about 35% of that month after month, year after year, just by fixing your windows. You're going to be more comfortable. Your house is going to look better. It'll be better built. It helps the resale value to show off those double pane and triple pane windows. It's a huge asset on a home. The truth is, even some newer homes can have inferior windows. Winders sound like my relatives. They could have inferior windows simply because, you know, contractors will focus on, they'll draw you out of the kitchen and put some cool countertops but they put cheap windows in, and who's looking at that? I mean, you're just excited about this home. And so get that fixed. In an older home, it goes without saying. I grew up in a house, I think it was built in the 1920s, and boy, those windows had been painted over 10 or 20 times. They were painted shut, single pane. Some of them were loose. You could touch the window and feel it rattle. And that house was leaky. It was drafty in the winter time. Y'all can get this fixed with Becky Jackson and her superior team at EcoView Windows. They really do know their stuff, and they'll get you squared away. EcoViewWindows.com. EcoViewWindows.com. Y'all, pardon me, all the swallowing and stuff. AJ, I think I got a face full of pollen already. I have a little golf cart. You've been on my golf cart with me, and it's just, you know, it's black, so you see pollen on the black surfaces better.
Yeah.
I parked that thing and did a radio show last night. Before I came out, it was yellow. I mean, in 4 hours, that thing was just coated. I was like, yep, it's here. It's back, baby. That's where all those trees, all those leaves are coming from. So y'all pardon me. I don't have real allergies, but it's starting to affect me talking this long. So do what we can. Okay, let me get to some other stuff. I want to geek out for a minute on the military and what we're doing in tech. So we got this back and forth. We're still trying to get the Strait of Hormuz open. It's a challenge because there may be some mines. By the way, let me deal with this first. Paul Begala, I had no idea this guy was still alive. He had his heyday with the Clinton administration. Then he got his CNN gig. Limbaugh used to call him the forehead. This dude's got the biggest forehead on the planet. He shows back up on CNN last night and trying to make a point. The left will seize on anything, and this will all connect for you. Just hang in here with me. These people we're trying to make a big deal out of some steak and lobster being on the Department of Defense budget sheets. They thought they had them. They thought they finally got Hegseth, who's probably the best Secretary of Defense maybe in my lifetime, definitely in the last 20 years. This guy is running a tight ship, and they're executing incredible missions. They don't have any operational security leaks ahead of stuff. They get it done. They've surprised the world 2 or 3 times by keeping operational tightness and executing the missions. It's just crazy what he's getting. And the morale is up, recruitment's up, everything that you're supposed to do in his job is going well. Yeah, they're all going to have missteps. So they seized on steak and lobster. And this fool, Paul Begala, who's been that way since the 90s, decided that was a gotcha thing that he could bring to the table at CNN last night. Who in the hell really watches CNN? Not many people. So, this is why nobody's watching them anymore. They clown themselves with this stuff. So he goes on, and he confronts that guy on there that's always doing the conservative counterpoint, Scott Jennings, I guess his name is. Listen to this little back and forth real quick.
Ribeye steak, $6.9 million for lobster tail, $225 million for furniture. He spent more in the month of September than most countries on earth spend in their defense.
Paul, do you believe
all for himself? Lobster tails?
Do you believe
while our troops are eating MREs?
No.
Do
you believe the Secretary of Defense is personally eating all the lobster?
Well, he
It's
can't
for
eat
the
16.
Troops.
Oh, really? The troops are getting
And
lobster.
frequently.
Brothers, deep back.
And then here's a troop video of them eating lobster. Yeah.
How's this steak and lobster? All right, damn near decent. How's yours? I'm ready for war.
We're going to war.
In
Oh,
theater,
my God.
Troops who are going to war.
Oh,
get
my God.
Great meal. You know
Okay.
that.
They're
You
getting
know
lobster.
that.
You are so
You're gonna
full of
get
it.
killed over this.
You are
You're
so
gonna get killed
full of
over
it.
this. Internet,
No.
do something.
So Scott Jennings says, internet, do something. And immediately all these soldiers start posting videos of themselves doing a military tradition that goes back, some tell me it goes back to Vietnam, pre-deployment. the unit will when they can get it, they will boost the morale of the troops by throwing down some surf and turf, baby. By the way, all of these schmucks in DC on all of these shows eat in the finest restaurants in the world all the time. It's the thing. Dinner in DC is the culture. Every night after your TV show or after y'all vote, some lobbyist is treating everybody in that town to stuff that the military. You throw a couple of burned steaks and a lobster tail on a styrofoam tray and give it to our soldiers, and it's a win for them. It's a treat for them, and that's what's gone on for decades. And the Department of Defense just did it again. They've been doing it for years. It's a morale boost when you're sending people off to war. It's like, hey, eat up, boys. Here we go. How American is that? And damn it, our troops deserve to eat whatever we want to feed them. They should get this every day, if you ask me. But this schmuck has to sit there and, for a minute, every fool that follows all of these talking heads on their side on the internet, we're going on and on about steak and lobster. How many times can people be wrong? Well, let me give you another one. This is why I'm putting all this together in one segment. So then the next thing was they tried to make the argument that we had decommissioned our minesweepers right before the Strait of Hormuz situation. They went on and they being a bunch of just idiots online that suddenly are military experts. One, Begala's never given a damn about what the federal budget is. And he didn't say two things about Somalians ripping us off by billions of dollars with welfare fraud and autism fraud and Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud. Nothing out of these people over that kind of waste. And then you have this idea that soldiers don't eat steak and lobster. They eat MREs. You people, Pete Hegseth ate all the damn steak and lobster. And then they get to this, they provide their expertise on logistics and how the military works and what our weapon systems are. So they started in group sort of pack mentality fashion. And to be fair, Republicans do the same thing. There are people on the right that they'll get a bad piece of information. Everybody gang tackles it because you can put points on the rhetorical scoreboard every day with it. So they start saying things at our worst hour. Our Defense Department has gone into amateur hour. We retired, and they show a little picture of some minesweepers on a larger craft being taken home to port to be decommissioned. We've retired our minesweepers as the Iranians are now going to be blowing us up with cheap mines because we don't have any foresight and we're left defenseless. And they all seized on that like it was legit. Well, then I watched this military guy who is an absolute detailed expert on all of this stuff. And he took this guy to task, and I wish I could read the whole thing. I'm going to give you a sample of it to see how wrong those idiots are. And he starts this way. He goes, everything you said about the current state of the Navy's mine countermeasures capability is wrong. Not a little wrong, completely wrong, dangerously wrong. He goes, the 4 ships we had dedicated or to be decommissioned were replaced by 3 much more superior ships that we just put into the space, and they've been there before this war even started. One's called the Devastator, one's called the Dextrous, and one's called the Gladiator, and one's called the Sentry. They replaced these old wooden-hulled ships. We used wooden hulls because they wouldn't attract the magnetic mines and be as attractive to the mines. But now we've got these littoral-class combat ships, some of which I believe we build here in Alabama. And they tow these mine-sweeping things that are away from the people on the ship. In the old days, the Navy was vulnerable to the mines because they were on the boat that was trying to pick up the mines. And now we've got these sensors and these countermeasures that they'll tow underneath the water behind the ship. He goes on to detail about how one of those ships was put into that region in 2025. It's been patrolling that whole area the whole time, picking up mines. We picked up several of them just in the last few hours with these ships. I mean, he goes into deep combat, and it was fascinating to read. And again, I know it's a long show, but I hate reading on the radio. It was just it's information versus nonsense. It's reality versus a fantasy the other guys have, because they are literally fantasizing on the American left for us to lose. There are 2 groups of people several groups, but you got obviously not all Muslims, because all the Arab nations are getting together to go on the attack and help with the ship escorts through the region. They need to be able to sell their oil through the strait. China's even talking to us now. China's so crippled. They've got gas lines with 1,000 people in them because they're so dependent on this stuff that they're running out of gas, and they're afraid they're about to be rationed. So everybody in China bum rushed the gas stations, and now the gas stations are running out like it's America in the 70s. Dude, we're totally winning this thing. We got them in a box. They're on defense. The world needs the strait open. The strait's going to be open. But so it was fun to watch this takedown and watch how stupid all these people have become over this issue. And then there was another issue, speaking of China. I wish I had time to go through it, but I'll give you the summary of it because that's the easiest thing to remember. This was a very intelligent takedown on what just happened. And you got to go back in some time when China wanted to cut their oil deal with the Iranians to have a permanent black market supply that they bought below market. So not only they're getting the oil they need, they're getting it on the cheap because we sanctioned it, which made it black market. And they're like, we give you $2. And Iran's like, we will take it, my friend. And so they cut a deal. Well, part of that deal wasn't just cash. The Chinese supplied the Iranians with $5 billion in weapon systems. It looked like a win-win. Iran gets these state-of-the-art Chinese anti-aircraft systems, missile systems, surface-to-air missile systems, anti-ballistic systems, anti-satellite interceptor missiles, Sunflower kamikaze drones, something called the YLC-9B radar system, other type of radar systems, counter battery radar. The list goes on. I got a whole list here in front of me. $5 billion for the oil that China's already taken. Okay, here that was their deal. And the Iranians thought they had hit the mother lode. They've got the most state-of-the-art stuff against the West. Every single weapon system that the Chinese sold the Iranians failed in the theater almost 12 days ago. Remember, this has only been going on 12 days for all you hand-wringers. 12 days ago, all of those systems were total crap, which also exposes every other Chinese ally that's been buying that their systems work, which also goes to show the Taiwanese that some of what China's projecting out to the world is a complete fraud. It's pure deterrence. They have scammed everybody with this stuff. Either that or they believe their technology worked, and like every other cheap thing that comes from China, it just doesn't. That whole country is a front, and that's what happens with communist type regimes when they try to play capitalist. It happened to the Russians. It's why the Soviet Union collapsed. Part of why it collapsed was they could not keep up with our military system spending on Star Wars, on Strategic Defense Initiative, as Reagan called it. The left called it Star Wars. They made fun of him. And guess what we're doing all these years later? We're shooting lasers from space in Iran right now. We're detecting missile launchers within seconds with our satellites. Space Force. It all came to fruition. It wrecked the Soviets. It's given us superior technology in this battle space. And now the Chinese have failed miraculously on the world stage, and they're running out of gas. Oh, yeah, the strait will open. It's fine. This is a temporary thing, us cleaning up the rest of this mess. The world has been put on notice. And the thing is, this was what was so smart about the Trump sequence. He secured the Venezuelan oil and made sure our stockpiles were as high as we could get them at, physically within limit, and before the Iranian situation, in anticipation of this Strait of Hormuz situation. In other words, it'll take a little while to get the Venezuelan oil on the markets, but the markets operate on futures, and they're all counting that by the end of the year, Venezuela's pumping their thick crude out to the world in fashion. And just this week, we announced the opening of the first oil refinery in America in Brownsville, Texas, in 50 years. That's planning ahead. It'll be a temporary setback. We're going to pay more at the pump, probably for weeks. But when this settles, the oil blackmail system in the world is going to be gone. We're going to be swimming in it at a time when we need it the most to continue to build up our economies. It's chess, man. Everything's connected. And then we don't even have to get into the freedom issue for the Iranian people. and the hostility of their neighbors toward their neighbors in the region and everything else. If you just talked about the economics of this thing, it had to be done. We can't be blackmailed by the Strait after this gets cleared. By the way, they've been using the Strait against us for 47 years. All right, man, I can keep going. I could absolutely keep going. Also, I had another random thought, and I see the call stacking up. You guys hang on. I'm going to get to you. We got to take a break first. I remembered a buddy of mine that I worked with when I was young in television. His name was Marion. Marion was a former Marine and a dark dude. And I don't mean skin color. He was African-American, but I mean, he was quiet. He didn't like anybody. He was one of our photographers at my TV station. And he was known as a pretty fierce guy. And I got to know him. He somehow liked me. And he'd always asked to go out with me on our assignment. So I'd go with Marion because Marion and I got along. And he was in the Beirut bombing in 1983. He almost lost his life when the Iranians, in those days, it was just called Islamic Jihad, but it was Hezbollah. When they bombed our Marines in the U.S. Embassy and killed, I think, 67 people, several dozen Americans, a lot of them Marines. This guy pulled his fellow dead Marines out of that rubble. And one day he just opened up and told me that story. And this had only been maybe, I guess, 8 years after it happened. He had come back home from the Marine Corps, went on with his life, became a beautiful photographer, one of the most talented guys I ever worked with. After I understood it, I didn't blame him for being so aloof. This guy had seen things these little punk ass reporters like me that worked with him had never seen and didn't understand. I remember he and I went out during the tension of the Rodney King riots, and it was reassuring because he was also some Taekwondo master and all this stuff. But I looked at him, I said, man, we're going to really roll up in there like this. Are you worried? He goes, ain't nobody going to die tonight. And he just looked at me like, I got your back. Don't worry about it. And I calmed down like, thanks, Dad. This guy was awesome. But I thought of him when I thought about all the stuff we've put up with the Iranians for all these years, all the death and destruction and threats and humiliation, everything from that incident, the Iran hostage situation, under Obama when they stole our drone and reverse engineered it and Obama let them. And then they put our sailors on their knees and their hands behind their heads at gunpoint and humiliated us in front of the world. And we let them. You remember that? They used that for propaganda forever. Just embarrassed one of our patrol boats. We were on our knees to these people after Obama. Sent them billions. They turned it into war money that they used to commit October the 7th. Send that whole region into chaos. These people had this coming. That regime had it coming. And I don't believe they even have a leader right now. Man, we got a lot to say about it. A lot of breaking news tonight. Now I got a loaded bank of calls. I'm going to get to them one at a time. Lead on live, Talk 99.5. Y'all stay tuned. All right, y'all. I'm gonna try to get to all these calls. We'll start with line 4 and our buddy Country Philosopher as we wrap up the hour. What's up, CP?
Hey, Leland. I just wanted to say that tomorrow I'm going to a class here in Hoover that's put on by USCCA. It's a class that is designed to teach people how to defend their house of worship. And it's going to be going, it's from 1 to 3. You can look it up on the website. I don't have the location details, but, there's still seats. And it's non-secular. I mean, it's any church you go to. And I'm going to tell you, the threat is real. They're everywhere. And they're not polished, trained soldiers. They're mostly kids that are addled in the head because they are easily convinced. Basically, they're Muslim liberals. And so they are radicalized, and these are the people that are running in and trying to blow things up and trying to shoot people. And everybody needs to know what to do in a situation like that. The difference between cover, concealment, exits, how to make an exit, how to everything you need to do, and it all needs to happen in a split second. You don't have time to sit and think about these things. That's why we need to train. We need to create muscle memory. And so there are these classes. They're free. Different organizations put them on. This one, like I said, is USCCA. I'm going to be there. My channel, The Country Philosopher on YouTube, I'll have my shirt on because things like this are important to my channel. I want people to be that guy that stops a threat, to be that kid that stabs a jihadist to death.
Exactly.
That comes in and, this is what we need in America. And the only way we're going to do it is if we think about it, think tactically, be prepared, and train ourselves. It's a very real threat. So that's it, man. That's all I've got. But I wanted to put that
Tell
out
us
there.
one more time, though, where is that training and how do people sign up for it? Because I think everybody that can should.
Well, you can go to the USCCA website and you can put in the words protect your house of worship, and it'll find the class nearest you. Now, this one is tomorrow between 1300 and 1500, 1 to 3. It's here in Hoover. It's at a gun shop. I don't remember the name of the shop, but it's free. There's still seats, and you can find it on their website, USCCA, and this is critical knowledge, folks.
That's good information. I appreciate it, Country Philosopher. We got to go to the top of the hour.
Sure.
We'll do that real quick and come right on back here, Shane. And there's a Leland on the phone. And Rod, y'all hang on. We'll go to calls when we come back, updates when we get them.